Let us solve the exercise number 3 in the part B of Advanced Java and Java EE lab. In this exercise, we are supposed to create a Java class called tax with the method for calculating income tax. Then have this class as a servant and create a server program and register in the RMI registry. Then write a client program to invoke these remote methods which are there on the servant and do the calculation. They have also said that accept the inputs interactively. They have also specified the conditions for calculating the income tax. They have provided the various ranges and the corresponding tax that need to be calculated. Before we venture into calculating the income tax, let us first understand what is the meaning of the server program and what is this servant and what is this client. By now, we are already familiar that there is something called as a server which serves the client. So this server and the client, which let me write it as server and client, are generally considered to be in a remote location. That means to say that they are not there in the same machine, they are there in the different machine. So the program which is running the server is there on a separate JVM. What is JVM? Is Java virtual machine, and the client program is also there on a separate JVM, that is Java virtual machine. Now the purpose of the server is to serve the client. To serve the client, the server requires some additional help, and this help is provided by the server. So if you go to the restaurant, you find the waiters or the servers. They will give you, if you go to a hotel, they will give you a menu and you will select a few items from there. Okay. They will take your order and they will go to the kitchen, and there is a person called chef. They will give the order to the chef, and this chef will prepare the food or the items or whatever you have ordered and then hand it over to the waiter or the server. The server will then serve it to the client. So this is the same idea that is there even in the Java. So there is a client machine that requests for a service. This request is accepted by the server. However, the server itself will not solve the problem. Instead, it will take a help of the servant program. So whatever the request that has come, it will give it to the servant program. The servant program will perform the requested operation or will do the processing. The results are given back to the server, and the server will send the result back to the client side. So this is generally happens. However, in order for these things to happen smoothly, there must be a correct understanding between the client and the server. So for example, the client may say that I want you to compute income tax. So it will say that let me write the method here. So let's say client may say that compute tax, and client may give the name, say Harish, and the amount. So let's say some amount. Okay, and it will send that request to the server. The first thing, the server may say that there is nothing called as compute tax. What we have is calculate tax. So this story itself, whatever you are requesting, this request, compute tax is not there. Rather, what we have is calculate tax. So there is a mismatch between the client and the server. And the server may say that we don't accept the name of the person. We accept only the amount. So here, two parameters are sent, but only one parameter is expected at the server. The server may say that the amount what is after calculation, the result is given as a string. That means to say that rupees 405 as the tax. So I put a double quotes here just to say that it is a string. But the client may expect the result in the form of a double. For example, 45.45, something like that, 45.78. So the double precision number. So here again, the return value, there is a mismatch between them. So such a thing should not happen. If such a thing happens, then this is not going to work out. So what must be done? The solution for this one is both the client and the server must agree on to something. So the client and the server must say that we will agree on something, a common factor. So they will say that there is going to be a common method, for example, compute tax, and it will take the amount and it will return the tax amount. Now, the amount is in double precision and the return value is also in the double precision. So the client is going to supply call this method compute tax, and it will give you the result, or it will give you the amount. This is received by the server does it, it will give it to the servant, or for that matter, and the servant will compute and it will return the value as a double precision result. So the client receives a double precision value, say 4.67 or something like that. So here both of them will work fine. So in other words, there must be a contract between the server and the client saying that both of them will follow the same thing. How can we make that thing happen? So in the Java world, this can happen by making a layer here. I'm going to call that layer. Let me write this client here. So a layer here which is common to both of them. What is this layer is called as? This contract is called as interface. So interface is that contract that is agreed upon by both the client, this is server, and the server. So both the server and the client will agree on to the interface. So the first thing that we are supposed to do is get this interface. So let's try and get that interface. I'm going to go to the NetBeans and I will create a new project here by clicking on the file and new project. I'm going to take the first option as the Maven. You can take Gradle, you can take Ant. It's up to you. I will take the Java with Maven and then select the Java application because we are just creating the Java application. Click Next and then give a particular name. You can give the package name and other things. I will not touch that thing. I'm going to say this is exercise B3. That is it. And if you want, you can change the package name. I'm not going to touch them and I'm going to just click finish. So what the NetBeans has done here is it will create a project and it will create a package called com.mycompany.exb3, whatever is the package name. Inside it, it is going to create a Java class called as exb3.java. That is the class which contains a static void main method. So this method will be there in that class. Okay. But I'm not going to use the class created by the NetBeans. I'm going to create my own interface now. How can I create the interface? There are two ways in which you can create the interface. Either you can directly create the interface on this package, or you can create the interface on the project name itself. So what is the difference? If I click this one and right click and then say new Java interface, you will notice that when the interface is created, forget about the name and so on. So when this interface is created, the package by default is automatically taken as this package. So automatically it will take the package. What about if you click here, then right click and then say new Java interface? Whether it is a class or interface, the story remains same. So in this case, The name you will type it, and you will also have to select the appropriate package. So that is very important. If you don't select the package, see, I'm going to just do it again. If you don't select this package, let's look at this one. There is this interface. You will notice you will get a warning message here saying that you have to select a package, and then you will have to do it. So an option is yours. You can do it any way you like it, but I'm going to do it by clicking on the package and then right click and then say new Java interface. Now during the examination, what if this Java interface is not visible here? In that case, go to the others. Let's go to the new others, and inside, generally when you go to the others, it will be in the web. Go to the Java because you are creating Java application and you have a lot of things which are available in the Java. I'm going to say Java interface. So say Java interface, click next. You will come to this same point that you would have reached by right clicking here and then new Java interface. The option is same. Now, I will call this interface as, because we are calculating income tax, I will call I, this is not L, this is not 1, this is I tax, I for interface. So this is interface. Okay, so I will keep that I there, interface. Okay, I tax, that's the interface. Let me click finish. Now, as usual, you know very well, whenever you create a project in the NetBeans, it will add few remark statements which are of no use to us during the examination. So I'm going to remove the remark statement just for the sake of examination, and I will keep this thing simple. Now, what is that we are supposed to do? We are supposed to compute the income tax. So I'm going to say public, which is not essential because interface, all the methods are generally considered to be public unless and otherwise you specify something else. And the return value is double. Let me give the name as compute tax, single word. So this is compute tax is a single word and it takes a double amount. So this is the common thing. So this is the common interface between the server and the client. So this is the client here, and let me go here, and this will be the server. So both of them are agreeing on to the two things. What is this? Both of them are agreeing. Both of them are agreeing to say that they will call the method called as compute tax. They will supply only the amount which is the double precision value, and they expect a double precision value to be back. So this is what is done. Now this interface is for a local contract. But what we have now is a remote contract. The client is in one machine and the server is in the other machine. So there is a problem. What is a problem? Because both of them are this particular interface has to be called remotely. So if this interface is there on the server, this method has to be called remotely by a client which is there on some other machine. How do you make or how do you tell the server that this particular method can be invoked in a remote manner? So how do you do that? In Java, this is very simple. If you want an interface to be available remotely, then what they said is extend that interface with the remote. Where is this remote? Remote is part of java.rmi. So remote, okay, it is again, it's an interface, it is not a class. So this interface serves to identify the interfaces whose method may be invoked from the non-local virtual machine. What is the meaning of saying non-virtual local machine? It can be invoked by a remote machine. So I'm going to just press enter here. So let me try again. So control space it. You press the control and space, press enter. What is that NetBeans will do it is NetBeans will add the proper import statement for you. You don't have to type it. and even you don't, if you type it, you will make a spelling mistake and you will mess up the things. So allow the NetBeans to do that. Okay. Now the problem is, what if there is this method is particularly this method is implemented on the server and there is a client, and this method is now available remotely because you have extended out of a remote. But the problem is this is a outside connection, and you know very well outside connection can break anywhere. So you know network can break at any time, or the data may not reach there, data may get damaged. Lot of problems are there in the network. How do you handle them? To handle them, you have exceptions. You know very well when something goes wrong, you handle the exception. Now these are not local exceptions, these are the exception that is occurring on a remote machine. So the client is trying to connect to a method here. For some reason this method is down. When this method is down, what will happen is this particular class, whichever is implementing it, it will raise an exception. Now this raised exception is not required by the server, because server has nothing to do with that exception. That exception has to be sent to the client saying that there is something went wrong. So the client machine must somehow get that thing. In other words, whatever exceptions are getting generated has to be thrown remotely. How do I do that thing? Do that thing, this method, whenever you are calling this method, you have to exclusively say that this method throws a remote exception. So I type ex and control space it. The NetBeans will say that remote exception is a common superclass for a number of communication related exceptions that may occur during the execution of remote methods. So it handles all the exceptions. So I'm going to just press enter. When you press enter, what the NetBeans has done is it has also put a beautiful import statement for you. You don't have to do anything. Now whatever you have done, this contract, whatever you have done, or this interface, whatever is done, is an interface which can be kept on a remote server and which can be invoked by a client which is there on a remote machine. Now this this is just an interface, you know very well. This interface has to be implemented by someone. Who is that who is going to implement this interface? If you think that that interface will be implemented by the server, the answer is no. The server will not implement that thing. Then who is going to do it? I've already told you there is a servant. There is a separate, you know very well. The waiter will only take the order. Waiter will not prepare the food. Food is prepared by the chef, or maybe cook, or whatever you call him. Okay, so him or her. So this server will take and give it to this chef, or this servant, and this servant is supposed to handle that thing. So who is going to implement all your what to say methods are the servant. So where is this servant now? So let's look at where is the servant now. To create that servant, what are the steps that we are supposed to take? Now this servant is again definitely in Java you don't have new things. In Java we are having classes, interface, package, and so on. So for only these things are there. So something has to be there. Either the class must be there, the package must be there, or an interface must be there. Interface is already done there. Package has nothing to do with this. So what is left over is the class. So we need to create a class. How to create a class? So let's go to the project here, and in the project, let's go to this project here. I already have a interface here. I'm going to add a class there. So I'm going to click on this package here and right click on it and then say new class. So during the examination, if you don't find a class here, go to the others, and in the other select Java, and you will find Java class here under the Java. Whether you right click and do it, or whether you select this and do it, you will finally come to this place. Okay, so here one very important thing, this package is same as this package. Don't keep the things in one different package, then you will have trouble in finding them. Now, what is the name of this class? Name of this class, you cannot write anything and everything. They have already said that there is a class called as a tax. So this class is a tax. This here you don't have the choice. You have to use the word that they have given, tax. Let me finish it off. Again, as usual, NetBeans will add a few remark statement which is not required during the examination. In real life, they make a lot of sense, but in during the practical, they are useless because it's not going to serve the purpose. Now the problem is that you have a server and you have a servant which is going to serve the client. So client is there at the remote location. Let me write the whole story. This is the client and this is the server and this is the servant. Okay. Now this servant has to get the request from the remote location. Okay. Generally, whenever you create a class, ordinary class, they will receive the request from the local. So they locally somebody will call some methods within the class. Now in this case, it is not so. This must be available as a remote object. What is the meaning of saying a remote object? See, you may have many objects here. Hope you are familiar with the object and classes. In the client side, you may have a lot of objects which are created out of classes. Client can directly interact with these objects because they are local. But now there is a object which the client wants to interact through a remote activation. So from a remote location it wants to activate. So then this cannot be an ordinary class. All of them here what you see which are there with the client, they are ordinary classes. But now this is again a object that is created out of a ordinary. All these are objects that are created out of a ordinary class. Now this particular object that is created cannot be from an ordinary class because ordinary classes or ordinary objects that are derived out of the classes don't know how to reply in a remote invocation method. So now what I am supposed to do is I cannot use the ordinary class. I have to somehow extend this class. Ordinary class means it will be part of client. Now I have to extend this class so that somebody from the remote location can invoke or can use this particular object. So how to do that thing? In Java, you know very well. This is just an ordinary class. Now I am saying that this is not just an ordinary class. This extends. So its capability has to be extended so that it can be invoked from a remote location. So what is that I'm supposed to say? I'm going to say that this is it extends from unicast remote object. So I pressed the control space. If you do it in NetBeans, this is much easier. And what the NetBeans will do is it will add the required import statement. So what I have done now is this is not just an ordinary class. Ordinary class means this is ordinary class. Now this has become some extended class which can be invoked by a client. So this is what I have done there. Okay, so that is being done. Okay, now when you create an object out of this class, remember this is the parent of this particular class. So this is the parent. So whenever you create an object out of this class, you have to also create, because it's an extension, you have to also create the object of the parent also. So you know the story of inheritance, you are already familiar with that. So when I'm going to add a constructor for it, suppose if you don't know how to add the constructor, on the inside this class, remember this is the class, inside this class, right click and then you have an option for insert code. You notice that insert code, there is an option for insert code. So insert code and then call the constructor and don't select anything, just to say generate. So if you don't know how to create it, I'm damn sure that all of you know it. So I'm going to type it on my own because you know it. Public name of the class. Okay, so as simple as that, and then open and close the bracket. Okay, now there is a one minor problem with this one. What is that? If you look at here, it just says that whenever you are calling a remote method, or whenever you create an object which is there at the remote location. So this is so here you have the client. Where is the client? The client is here. When you try to create the object in a remote location, many things can happen. Either you may successfully do it. If you are lucky, you may be able to create an object, or if you are unlucky, you may end up in trouble. For many reasons, so there can be an exception. And that is what it is saying, that you have to handle an exception. So if you try to create an object, it may throw an exception, and the exception that is thrown at the server side is not in the problem of a server, it is the problem of the client. So this exception has to be handled by the client, not the server. So this is not just an ordinary exception, it is a remote exception. How do I say that? So I can say that this constructor itself throws remote remote exception. So this is an advertisement. So I am not getting paid for that advertisement, by the way. So this is what is the meaning of it. And how do I invoke the parent? You know very well, to call the parent constructor, you just call the super, and super not 90, super, and this one. So this will, you know very well, super method will invoke the parent, what is that, constructor. So it will call the constructor. This constructor is for my method, and this constructor is for this one. So this is a class. So that is it. Okay, done. Now come back to our story. What is our story? We are not going to happy with that. So what we have achieved now is we have a servant here. But what is the use of this servant? End of the day, what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to calculate the income tax. And what is the agreement? Agreement is both of them will implement this method. So we have to implement this particular interface. So I'm going to say it extends this. Now when I say extend, it became a remote object. Now I'm going to say it this remote object implements iTax. What is this iTax, by the way? iTax is the interface I have just created, iTax. Okay, so this is going to do that. Now when you do that, there is one method which has to be implemented. So that means it's not happy. You can click here and then say implement all the remote objects. So if you see here, there is a bulb here. You can click on this one and then say implement all the abstract methods. So which is that abstract method? Abstract method is this. That is compute tax is the abstract method which is there in the tax here. So I'm going to just click on this one and then say implement all the, where is it? I'm going to say implement all the abstract methods. Immediately NetBeans will create a annotation saying that override. This is an override for this interface method, and it says it creates a same thing, double tax. Also, because there is a throws exception, that the story throws exception is also there. Because you have not written any code, what the NetBeans will do is if somebody calls this method, it will say it is not yet created, not yet supported because it is not yet created. So I'm going to delete this line. How to delete this line is very simple. Click here and then so click here, then drag down and see to it that you don't select the closing bracket. So click here, drag down and just drag it back. Press the backspace or delete button, it is deleted. See with that, you don't delete the opening and closing brackets. They are really required. Now we are supposed to calculate the tax here. Let me create a local variable called as a tax. And at the end of the day, I have to do the calculation. I have not done it. I am supposed to, after doing calculating the tax, I am supposed to return this tax value. So this is simple as that. So I am supposed to return this tax value. Now it says it is not initialized. That's a different story. I will do the calculation here. So at this point, I am supposed to do the calculation. So how can I calculate the taxes? So for that, let's look at what the condition they have given. They said that if the tax is less than 3 lakhs, how many zeros are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if the amount is less than 3 lakhs, then there is no tax. So how can I write that thing? So I can say that if the amount, see this is the amount that I'm getting as an input. So if the amount is less than 3 lakhs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it is less than that, then the tax is 0. Okay. So done. If the amount is less than 3 lakhs, then the tax is 0. Okay. Now, what is the next condition? Else if, so we have one other condition. Else if it is equal to 3 lakhs and less than 6 lakhs, that means it must be greater than 3 lakhs and the next limit is 6 lakhs. So I'm going to say else if, so it is not less than 3 lakhs, that means it is greater than 3 lakhs. And what is the next stop? The next stop is 6 lakhs. So I'm going to say else if the amount is less than 6 lakhs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 6 lakhs. I'm doing it. So if it is less than 6 lakhs, then what is the tax that we need to calculate? Then the tax that we need to calculate is 5%. Okay. So now the question, general question that you will come into your picture is because you are not familiar with the idea of a tax calculation. So what is the tax? Suppose if you say, if let's look at this story here. So this is not a straight line. So let me draw a straight line. So you know very well, if the tax amount is 0, then there is no tax. If the tax amount is, I'm going to just type here. So if the tax amount is, this is 3 lakhs. If you are, let me make it as a L. If the amount is anywhere between 3, not including 3 lakhs, if your amount is 1 lakh rupees, which is inside this 3 lakhs, then tax is 0, which you are familiar with. What if your tax is, let's say here, if the amount is 5 lakhs, what is the if it is 5 lakhs, what is the tax? Tax is not 5 lakhs, 5% of 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs into 5%. If you multiply that, then that is not the way in which the tax is calculated. So it is not based on the total amount. You just don't directly multiply. Okay, your tax is if it is greater than 3, then the tax is 5%. So what is that they said? Then the tax is 5%. So because it is greater than 3 lakhs, then 5% of tax has to be calculated for 5 lakhs. The answer is no. Within this 5 lakhs, first 3 lakhs, there is no tax. So they have said. So even though your amount is 5 lakhs, for the first 3 lakhs, there is no tax. What is remaining? Remaining is out of 5 lakhs, 3 lakhs, no tax. What is remaining? Remaining is 2 lakhs. For this remaining 2 lakhs, you have to calculate a 5% tax. So the idea of tax is like that. Okay. So for the first slab, this is called as a slab. For the first slab, 0 to 3 lakhs, you don't have the tax at all. Above this, if you're coming in the second slab, then above 3 lakhs, whatever amount is there, that you have to get a 5%. So how do you calculate the tax? So to calculate the tax, what is that? This is your amount. So whatever is your amount, that is, I will write it in a small case. I will use AMT minus 3 lakhs. So whatever this amount is there, whatever 5 lakhs, maybe there 4 lakhs, maybe there 3.5 lakhs, whatever is amount minus 3 lakhs into 5% tax you have to calculate. So this is what you are supposed to do it. So what is the tax now? Let me try that tax here. So I'm going to go here. The tax in this case is amount minus 3 lakhs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into 5%. What is 5.0.05? So 5% is 0.05. So that will be the tax. Let's look at what is the next one. So I'm going to just use the else if story. I'm going to copy paste it because else if the same story will be there. Else if, so this part is over. So this part is over. Above 3 lakhs is over. So above 6 lakhs, look at here, above 6 lakhs, okay, up to 9 lakhs, the tax is going to be 10%. So above, this was above 3 lakhs. Now our next story is above 6 lakhs. So I'm going to say if the tax is above 3 lakhs is over, this is a 3 lakhs, this is 6 lakhs. So what is the next number? Now this part is over, this part is over, this part is over. What is the next story? Next story is my stop is for 9 lakhs. So is it am I doing it correct? Okay, less than 3 lakhs there is no tax. Okay, then if it is my limit is above 3 lakhs and up to 6 lakhs, then 5%. Above 6 lakhs and up to 9 lakhs. So the next limit is 9 lakhs. So these are the limit. These are the limit. This is 6 lakhs, 9 lakhs, 12 lakhs, and 15 lakhs is the limit. So this my 6 lakhs limit is over. I'm going to go to the 9 lakhs limit. So this 6 lakhs limit is there is a 6 lakhs limit is over. I'm going to go to the 9 lakhs limit. So this is 9 lakhs. So that means above 6 lakhs up to 9 lakhs. Above 6 lakhs, above 6 lakhs up to 9 lakhs. This is the story. 10% is the tax. Now, how do you calculate the tax? Again, the same story. You start from the beginning. So every time you have to start from the beginning. So this is 0. Okay. Then up to 3 lakhs. So up to 3. I'm going to just write 3 lakhs. Up to 3 lakhs, no tax. Then 3 to 6 lakhs. So 3 to 6 lakhs, 5% tax. Okay. Above 6. Okay. Above 6. Okay. What is the amount above 6 up to 9 lakhs? What is the charges? Any amount within this. Suppose if you get the value as 8 lakh rupees. So what is the difference here? This is a 2 lakhs rupees difference. For this 2 lakhs rupees, you have to calculate. I'm going to say 2 lakhs into 10%. You have to calculate. This is L, not 21. So 2 lakhs rupees, you have to calculate 10%. What about this one? Here 0, this 3 to 6. What is the 3 to 6? What was the tax? This is 5% tax. Okay. What is the difference between a 3 and 6 and 3? This is 3 lakhs. For this 3 lakhs rupees, I have to calculate 5% tax. So for this 3 lakhs, 5% tax. And for whatever remaining amount is there up to 9 lakhs, you are calculating 10%. So for this slab, it is 5%. For the next slab, it is 2 lakhs rupees. What is the 5% of 3 lakhs rupees? I'm going to open this calculator. Let me open this calculator. And within this calculator, I'm going to say 3 lakhs rupees. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 lakhs into 0.5%. That is 5%. So what is this one? 15,000. So this slot, whatever you have it here. So from 0 to 3 lakhs, tax is not there. From 3 to 6 lakhs, what is the amount? Amount is 15,000. So this is a flat amount, 15,000. And whatever is from 6 to 9, this is a 10% tax. Suppose if your the amount is 7.5 lakhs. So what is the difference here between 3, 6 and 7.5? This is 1.5 lakhs. For this, what is the tax? 10% tax. So you have to calculate this 10% tax and add 15,000. 15,000 because of this slab, and remaining 10% for the remaining amount. So how do you do that? This is 15,000 plus whatever is the amount. Look at here. So this is again, this is 0, this is 0, this is 3 lakhs, no tax. 0 to 3 to 6, 15,000 rupees. Okay, 15,000 rupees. And whatever is the difference between the amount, and if this is 7.5 lakhs, whatever is the difference between 6 and this is not 3, between 6 and that difference, multiply it with the 10% tax. So I'm going to say, so this is not 3 minus 6 lakhs, the tax is 1.0 is same as 1. So this is done. Let's go to the next option. So let's go to the next option. What is the next option? Next option is so we have done this one. Next option, next stop for us is 12 lakhs. So if it is, we have done up to this one. If it is up to 12 lakhs, so above 9 lakhs up to 12 lakhs, what are the amounts? So again, same story. So here the tax is 15%. So let's start with the story here. So we start with the same story. So 0 up to 3 lakhs, no tax. 3 to 6 lakhs, 5%. What is 5% of 3 lakhs is 15k. Okay. Then 6 to 9, 6 to 9. So 6 to 9, 6 to 9, 10%. What is the 10%? Remember, what is 9 minus 6 is 3 lakhs. 3 lakhs into 10%. What is the 10% of 3 lakhs? You know very well. This is 30,000. 30,000. So here first it is 15,000 in this slab. From here to here it is 15,000. From here to here it is 30,000. So 15,000 plus 30,000. And suppose if somebody's salary is or amount is 11, so 11 minus 9, whatever is the amount, for that you have to calculate 15% tax. So first it is 5%, then it is 10%, then it is 15%. So how do you calculate? For the first slab it is 15,000. Second slab it is 30,000, 3,300, 3,000, 30,000, and whatever is the remaining above 9 lakhs, for that you have to multiply it with the 15%. So that is what they said, 15% tax. Next one, what is the next stop? Next stop is 15. So let's go to the next stop. I'm going to just go here. I'm going to say next stop is 15. So next one, what is the calculation? 20%. So what is the story? Story again, same old story you have to start with. From 0 to 3 lakhs, no tax. Okay. 3 to 6 lakhs, 15,000 is the tax. 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%, that is 30k is the 30,000 is the thing. Okay. From 9 to 12. Okay. So from 9 to 12, what is the tax? 15% of remember, what is the difference between 9 and 12? 3 lakhs. So 3 lakhs, what is the 15% of 3 lakhs? So remember, 5% is 15,000, 10% is 30,000. What is 15%? 10 plus 30, that is 45,000. So in this slab, you are giving 15,000 tax. In this slab, you are giving 30,000 tax. In the next slab, you are giving 45,000 as the amount. So here, let me come to this point. Now here, you are going to say, next one is 45,000, 4,000, this is 45,000, and the amount minus 12. Okay. So if you look at the idea there, So you are, if you look at this one, if you notice that, see, these are the upper limit, 6, 9, 12, 15. These are the limits. So you look at the limit there, 6, 9, 12, 15. Subtraction. What is a subtraction? When you have a 6, the subtraction is amount minus 30, amount minus 6, amount minus 9, amount minus something. So amount minus something. So amount minus 3 lakhs, amount minus this, amount minus. So the subtraction is always the previous one. Limit is always the next one. So this is the idea. So limit is this one. Subtraction is, hopefully I've done that thing. So this is, this amount is 20%. So this is not 15, this is 20%. Done. The last part, if it is above 15,000, so this is up to 15,000 is there. Else, if it is above 15,000, what we are supposed to do? If it is that, the same story is valid for the first slab. So let me do it from here to here. For the initial, from 0 to 3 lakhs, there is no tax. Tax is 0. From 3 to 6 lakhs, the amount is 15,000. From 6 to 9 lakhs, the amount is 30,000. From 9 to 12 lakhs, the amount is 45,000. From 12 to 15, what is the amount? Difference between 12 and 15 is 3 lakhs. And what is the amount is 20%. 20% of 3 lakhs rupees. 10% of 3 lakhs rupees is 30,000. 20% will be 2 times that, that will be 60,000. So I'm going to just write it 60,000. Hopefully that is correct. And then this amount is, remember, subtraction is always remember, subtraction is always the previous value. So this one. Okay, so hopefully you are able to follow that thing. It done. And what is the tax that we are supposed to, above 15,000? What is the tax? Is the 30,000. So 0.3 is the 30%. So that is as simple as that. So done with that one. And finally, you return the tax. So these are this is all the story that you are doing is tax calculation, big story. If condition, you can do it during the examination. You don't have to write a 15, 30, and so on. This is easy to remember. First is 15, then is 15 plus 30, then 15 plus 30 plus 45, then 15 plus 30 plus 45 plus 6. You can add them and say this is 45,000. You can add them, then you can say 90,000. You can add them. This is 90,000 plus 6, 1,50,000. You can write it as a single number, or you can show it as a separate number. It's up to you. I will leave it to you. For brevity, I've just kept these numbers. So this will do the calculation. So our servant is over. So our servant story is over. We have created, where is the story? Servant. Now this servant has to be placed inside the server. So I need a server. So let me go ahead and let me create a server. So I'm going to go to this project again, and I'm going to right click on this project. Remember, this server, very important thing, this server has to run somewhere. Remember, the servant has no static void method. So you know, public static void method, if it is not there, you can't execute that servant. So the servant cannot come into existence on its own. Servant will come into existence only inside the server, but the server has to be there alive, listening to the request from the client. So it has to be there alive. So that means this particular class must have public static void main method, because it has to come into life. So it, in other words, it has to be active. So let me add the class to my project. Again, if this project is not visible, go to view and projects, you will get that project. And let me click on this package here, right click and say new, and then say Java class. This is ordinary Java class I'm creating. So you create a Java class, and what you can say, you can say tax server. Any name you can give. Okay, and just click finish now. So you create the tax server. You create it as usual. That means we'll add unwanted remark statement which are not required during the examination. Now, what is the one thing that must be there within the server is public static void main method. So I'm going to say public static void main. So write the first letters. What are the first letter? Public static void main. Press tab. That means we'll do the needful thing for you. So you don't need to write that whole thing. So you have to just what did you do there? So you are just writing public static void main. So single letters, press tab, and then you get it. So what is that thing you are supposed to do it? This server, this is your server, tax server, must have the servant. So what is the name of the servant? Name of the servant is tax. So I'm going to say tax. So I'm going to say tax. Tx is equal to new tax. Done. Okay, call the method. Okay. Now, what is the problem? Problem is, you know very well, when you created this servant, you said that if you are calling the constructor, then it will throw a remote exception. So that is the problem. So this now what is saying is, this will throw a exception now. What you are going to do? So what am I going to do? So I'm going to say add throws exception clause to the main itself. You can write it, or you can allow the NetBeans to do it. So just click on this, what is this button here, bulb here. Click on here and then say add throws clause. NetBeans will add the throws clause. So this static public static void main is there. This will throw remote exception. Apart from that, NetBeans will beautifully add a import statement for you. So you don't have to make a mess out of it during the examination. So just allow the NetBeans to do it, and NetBeans will do it for you. Done with it. Now the question is, how can you have the server here, which has the servant. So everything is there. And you have the client here. Now, how can this client know that there is a server? So that is the major problem now. How can I know that there is a server now? Let me. In other words, how do I know that there is a restaurant or there is a hotel in my neighborhood? Yeah, definitely, you will say that. Search the Google and you will get the Google map and you will get the location. Find it and go to the restaurant of your choice or go to the hotel of your choice. The same thing is now the client is asking me, where is the server? How can I know that there is a server? So that is the question. Now, how can I know that there may be many servers? There may be many. So what the Java people have done is, if there is a server, they will maintain the list of servers which are available. So the server, whatever the server is there, server name and its details will be available here. And you write your internal assessment, and I'm going to keep your internal assessment mark in a register. So whenever you come to class, I will take the attendance, and I have something called as attendance register. So there is a registry. So there is a registry. Java will also maintain the registry and say that such a such server is present here. How I mark you as present or absent, such a such student is present and absent. Java will also maintain a registry and say that this server, tax server, is available in that registry. So I have to first get that registry. First thing is I have to first find the attendance register. Then I can mark you present or absent or anything and everything. So I have to first get the registry. How can I get the registry? How to get the registry? Good part is that they have a class called as a registry. Okay, so let us what is registry? Okay, so registry is it's not just a class, it is an interface. Interface, okay, to simple remote object registry that provides a method for storing and retrieving remote object references. So if I want to get this, how can I get the reference of my favorite restaurant which is there in my neighborhood? I am going to use the Google Map for getting that one. Again, I'm not advertising the Google Map. You may have other maps also. So in the same way, the remote object is there. How can I get the reference of that remote object? I have to go to the registry. And where is this registry? java.rmi.registry. So I'm going to say control space it, and I'm going to press enter, and NetBeans will add the required what is that import statement for you. So I'm going to say registry. Let me call it as RG. This is a variable name. You can call it as X, Y, Z, and anything. I will call it as registry. Now I am not going to say new registry. It is not that thing. The registry is already there. I have to locate the attendance register. I have to locate the mark register. Similarly, I have to locate that registry in Java. How can I locate? The word is I have to locate the registry. So if you look at it here, locate registry is used to obtain the reference to the remote object registry. So that is it. So when I press control space, remember I'm pressing the control space. If you don't know what I'm doing is I'm used to this. I press control and space bar, and this NetBeans will automatically do the needful thing for me. So what the NetBeans has done is it will add a import statement for me, and I don't have to do it. So I have to locate the registry. In that, I have to say that such a such person is present or absent or whatever it is. In other words, I have to first locate the registry and get, sorry, not get, and to create the first word itself creates an entry. So in my attendance register, I have to say first day when you come to the college, I will say such student's name. I will register it. Then I will mark them present, absent, or something else. So first I create the entry in that registry. So what is the word? It's already there. Create a registry. And when you create a registry, it is going to say, so if I have to in my attendance register, a lot of lines will be there. If I have to write something, I must know your name and your roll number and so on and so forth. Here also it says which is the port on which this particular thing is writing. Hope you are familiar with the so-called ports. So I'm not going to touch upon that port number. Now create registry and specify the port number. So I will locate my registry, and then I'm going to create a registry entry there at this particular port number. In other words, if at all, if you're not getting the story here, first of all, I will open the attendance register book, and I will go to a particular page number where I will write your marks details. So this is that page number that I need to specify. So which is the port that you can specify? You know that you can have 64,000 2 to the power 32 numbers of ports will be there. A lot of ports will be there. So out of that, all the ports, first 20,000 ports. So from 0, if it is there, up to 20,000 ports, don't use these numbers. These are numbers are already booked by others. So it is like a reserved numbers. Don't use them. Above 20,000 you can take a risk, you can go on, but don't take very large numbers. Above 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, 35,000, you can take the numbers. Don't take definitely don't take the numbers between 100. So port number 21 is a FTP port. Port number 80 is your web server. So if you are using Apache web server, so if you look at it here, port 80 and port 44 is already taken by the Apache server. So I'm running this Apache here. And if you are using MySQL, suppose if I start MySQL will use 3306. Look at that number. This is already registered. Okay. So don't try to take those numbers. Take some number which is more than 30,000. How can I take a number? I'm going to say 2 times 3, 2 times 1, and 2 times 2 and 1. So done. One number of my choice, but see to it that this is not less than 20,000. That is for brevity. You don't take the numbers, because if you take 21, if you take the port number 21, then you have a Windows Defender. You notice that where is that bugger gone? That I don't know, but it is gone. Good. In my case, anyhow, I have this Kaspersky, which will tell me that there is intrusion and so on. So somebody is trying to hack you, and it will just stop the application from going. So don't take the port which is already registered, because the antivirus or internet security and your Windows Defender, they don't like somebody to interfere with the known ports. So don't take it. I will take this number. If you are not happy with that number, if you don't like fancy number, don't take the fancy number. Okay, that's simple as that. That one number, but you have to remember that number. Let's go ahead, and I have the registry with me. Okay, now I have I have created this registry. So I got the registry, I got the page number. Now I have to add this thing here. I have to add this entry there. How can I add this entry? I have to connect this thing to this page number, whatever you can think of as a page number in your attendance book or anything. You just put this entry here. You can't take a glue or take this fevistick and stick your class there. Your class or this your object will be available here. So how can I do that thing? I will go to the registry RG, and I am going to say to the registry that bind this one. So when you bind it, it says you give me the name. So what is the name? Name is your choice. You Satish, Suresh, Ganesh, anything you can give, but I will give it a name that makes the sense. I'm going to say tax server. Any name you can give here, India, Pakistan, or any name you can give. But NetBeans, what it will do is it will wrongly select the registry itself as the binding object. I am not binding, so it is not. You have the registry here. Don't stick the registry itself here. Don't stick the registry. Stick the tax here. So bind that tax here. So be extremely careful. This is TX. That means we'll actually bind the RG itself, which RG is it is like a self binding. It's not going to work. So you have to do this. So done with that. Okay, now when you try to do it, what it is going to say, if you just look at here, it says add the clause RMI already bound to this one and so on. So add this clause. Who cares? Okay, add this clause. Okay, it adds already bound this clause and so on and so forth. Now during the examination, some people are there who are the first one you know very well. Remote exception is because your constructor had it. Next one is already bound exception. What is the meaning of it? Is you take a sheet here, you try to stick this thing over here, but you will surprisingly you will notice that somebody has already sticked that object there. So already bound object. So already bound. You may get that exception. Now there may be 101 exception. So what you are going to do? Those who are very lazy and though don't want to click here and there, for you I'm going to give you a shortcut thing. Now mother of all these exceptions is a class called as exception. Exception is the mother of all the exceptions. So remember that. So there is a class called as exception, which is the mother of all the exceptions. So I'm going to use that exception here. Single word exception here. Okay. What is the option? You will not get any error message. So this exception also contain both the methods. These exceptions are inherited. Where is this story? Both of them are inherited from the exception. So I'm going to use the parent here exception. Now why did I do that thing is you have to write this thing for the examination. Okay. So this is going to be a very difficult task. You have to remember java.rmi already bound, java.rmi. So you can, because it is an exception and you know very well exception is part of Java main class, you can ignore these two things from writing. Okay, when you are doing it in NetBeans, you don't have to do it, but because you are writing it during the examination, you may miss out something. So what I've done is instead of writing these two lines, we will delete these two lines and instead of handling them individually, already bound and remote, I will say there is an exception, single word exception. It is a mother of all the exception and it will handle it. So this becomes very compact. So it is easier for you to write. Okay. This completes my server. Now, if you are able to come up to this point, then you may say that your server is ready for accepting the request. So how do I say that? I'm going to say use yes out and press tab, that is system.out.println, and I'm going to say server started. So if you come up to this point, that means you have successfully started the server. So you have the server which has the servant and it is running. The client can now come here and make the request. So this is simple as that. Okay, is it running? So let me just save it, and I'm going to just right click and say run. Remember, you can run this because there is static void main. Right click here and then say run it. At the bottom you must get this word. If you come up to here, this means you are running. So go on doing it. It will take some time for compiling it. After compiling, you must get this word, server started. If the server is started, then you are the luckiest one. You will be able to get it. Now I'm going to just put minus sign here just to make the things complicated. Okay, remember there is no end for this particular. Very important thing is that there is no end for this thing. It will keep on running. So the server is once you start it, it will keep on running again and again and again and again. It will not come out of it. This program has not stopped. So if you go to this output over here, if you notice here, there is this thing over here. Can you see there? It is running. It is still running. It has not yet stopped. And also, if you notice over here, the server is running. It is running. It is continuously. It is like infinite loop. It is running again and again. So I'm going to just stop this one. Click here to stop it. And I'm going to put the minus sign here. You know that there is no negative port here. I'm going to just save it, and I'm going to right click and then start running it. Then when I try to do it, if everything goes fine, I'm going to get some things like here. So I get exception. Now it is not running. So port number value is out of range and so on and so forth. So I get an exception. If you get exception, your server is not running. So what you are going to do now, you are going to stop this very, very important thing. You're going to stop this one by clicking here, or you can click here X mark also. So I'm going to just stop it here, stop the server. I'm going to remove this minus sign. I purposely put the minus sign there, and save it. Control S to save it, and then run the server one more time. Now everything will go fine, and it is going to run the server. And if the server is running, remember you must get your favorite word here, server started. If you get this server started, it is there. Server has started in the port number 33210. If you run it again, what will happen? It is already running. Remember, if you run it one more time, what is going to happen? So if you try to run it, remember this server is already running. Again, you are trying to run the tax server. So what is going to happen? So when you try to run it again, you are going to get the exception, and it is going to say the address is already in use. Port is already bound. Address is already bound. 33221 is already bound. It is not going to work. What are you going to do? Remember, very, very important. Stop the server. Very important during the examination also. Stop the server. Either clicking on here or clicking on this one. One and the same. So you can use. Where is this thing gone? You can use this one, or you can use this one. Any one will work. I'm going to stop the server. So the server part is over. Now let's go to the client part, and let's add the client. I'm going to go here to my project. Again, if the project is not visible, go to Windows and project, and let's go to this thing over here. And what is this thing? My project, and I will go to my package. Right click here and say new, and I'm going to say Java class. I'm creating the client now within the same package, and you can say tax client. I can say tax client. Any name you can give within the same package, remember. And I'm going to just finish it off. Now again, NetBeans will add a few remark statement which is not required during the examination. I'm going to remove them. And what is this class also has to run. So very important thing. How do you make a class run? It must have static void main method. How to run that? Static public static void main. Write that thing. So then press tab and the NetBeans will do the needful thing. What is the first thing this client must do? So first thing, there is a server. Server has the servant and it is running. Now what the client must do? It must first locate the server. So how can the client locate the server? Go to the registry. In the registry, find this page where this thing is been sticked and get the reference of that. So how do you do that thing? All the stories are very simple. First I will get the registry. First I need the registry. So I'm going to say registry. Okay, so registry, where is the java.rmi.registry? Press enter. So you got registry. I'm going to say rg. It is not equal to new registry. Remember, first you locate the registry, locate registry, done. And then what is the next one? In the previous case, remember in the server, you were creating the page. You are creating, server has already created something in the registry. You don't go and create, the client is also not creating it. So that means everybody is creating. Server will only create the entry. Client will use that entry. So server will create the entry. So your server will create the entry. Client will use that entry. So when it comes to the client, be careful with this thing. After locating the registry, you get the registry entry by the port number. What is the port number? Port number, you must be very careful. This number, whatever you have used when creating the registry, same number has to be used. So I'm going to select this one, Control C to copy it, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to paste it. 33221. This number is a very important thing. If you make a mess with that number, you will be, it is like instead of your attendance, somebody else is marked absent. So I must be careful with your register number. So it's something like that. Okay. So you get the registry, and as usual, I will get a lot of exception. If you look at here, I will get a lot of exception. So I'm going to say use the mother of all the exception. What is the mother of all the exception? Mother of all the exception is throws exception. So this will satisfy all the exceptions, whatever it is there, whether it is not found, yet to found, and not yet created, anything and everything. One single exception throws exception. That's simple as that. Let's go ahead with the next. You got the registry. Now from the registry, so you got the registry, you went to the page number 3321. There somebody, the server has sticked this object, that is the servlet object reference. Get that reference here. So get that reference here. How can I get the reference? Remember, what is this servlet? Servlet is a class called as tags. I am not interested in that one. So again, look at the story. You have the server here, you have the client here. Both of them agreed on to something. What is that both of them have agreed? Both of them have agreed on an interface. So what is important to me is that interface, not the class. Class may be anything, but what is common is this method. So I will use that interface to get that thing. What is the name of this interface? itags. This is the common thing. So itags. Okay, I will call it as tx. You can call it with any name. Equal to, I have to get it from the registry. Go to the registry rg, then look up for the name. What is the name you gave? I told you can give any name here. Satish, Suresh, Mahesh, anything, but I gave a good name that I will remember here. So I am going to use this tax server. So I'm going to copy Control C and I'm going to use it so that I won't make a spelling mistake. Java is case sensitive. That's very important. What is written in capital has to be there in capital. Small case with capitals, you know the story of Java. So whatever is the name that you have given, this name. So this you have this page number 3321. In that you gave the name and you have the object there in front of it. So you refer this object by the name. It's like a variable name. So you get the name there, you got the object here. But what you got, what was sticked here on the server? What was what was what is this? What was sticked there was in this page number 3321. What was being sticked there was this object. What is this object? TX. What is this TX? TX is the servlet, but we are not interested in the servlet. We are interested in this one. So we have to somehow get the reference of this particular thing. Okay, so when you try to look up, I'm going to just get this lookup story here. So let me go back to the lookup story. Okay, let me just go here. So if you say this lookup, let me go here, r dot lookup just for the reference. It is completing, it is doing it on its own. So can it give me the lookup? So where is this? Let me ask it to give me a lookup. So if you look at this lookup, lookup will return. So lookup will take a string and so on and so forth. So what is a lookup is returning is a remote. It will return a remote. It will not return the tax object. So what I am supposed to do? So you know very well, if the value is returned is not integer, you typecast it as an integer. If the value is not a floating number, you typecast it as a floating number. So if the value is not tax, but it is remote, something of a remote, you typecast it. So, and that is what is the story that NetBeans is saying. If you look at the bulb over here, if you click on this bulb here, so it says, sorry, I will make the complete this one. Okay, so let me complete this one. Okay, so what the NetBeans is saying me is that if you click on it, it says that do you want to cast it? Yes, I want to typecast it. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to typecast it here. How do you typecast it? You hope you know that thing. In C also, typecasting it, you write the class name here, that is typecasted. So whatever is returned by it is object of type remote, that is typecasted as I tax, that is a sublet, and it is returned back to me. So what I got is an object of type I tax. So I got that object. Done with this. Now I have to call this method, but before I call this method, the some things that they have told. What is the something that they have told is I have to accept the values interactively. I have to accept the value first of all. How do you accept the values? To accept the value, I'm going to use the scanner. I'm going to use a control space scanner. I'm going to say in is equal to you know very well, a new scanner, a new scanner, and I'm going to say system, okay, dot in. So this is for my input, okay, and I have to continuously ask the user, do you want interactive means, do you want to compute the tax? If they say yes, you will show it. Again, do you want to compute the tax? If they say yes, do it, and so on. So I'm going to say string, and I'm going to say answer. By default, the user is interested in, this is a small case y. Yes, whenever I ask the user, do you want to calculate the tax? The user, yes, yes, I want to calculate the tax. So the default answer is yes. Okay. And what is the next thing that I am supposed to do is I have to get the amount value, is it not? So what is the amount? So here you notice that a lot of amount is there. I have to say what is the amount. Based on the amount, I can calculate 5%, 10%, or whatever it is. So I have to get the amount. Now I will do this whole story. So until, okay, not true, until the user says, until the answer given by the user is equal to y. Remember, you are not using this story. Hope you are familiar with the answer double equal to yes will compare the objects, not the value. So equals is the one that you have to use it. So equals yes. As long as the user says yes, I want to calculate, keep on doing it interactively. So when the user gets fed up and say no, I don't want any calculation here, you forget it, then you exit the while loop. So let's use the s out. and let's ask the user enter the what is this total amount. What is it? Is it salary? What is it? I'm going to say enter total amount. I don't know whether it is a salary or whether it is GST, or I don't know, some tax has to be there. So enter the total amount. I'm going to say enter total amount. Done. I think I will not use ln. Ln, you know, line, next line. I don't want to go to take it to the next line. Print means in the same line. It will print it in the same line. It won't take it to the next line. So same line, you print it and accept the amount. How do you accept the amount? Amount is equal to in is my object, scanner object, in dot next. What is this? Next, what is the data type? It is a double. Did I take the amount as double? So what is the data type of amount? It is double. So next double. You got it. Okay. Then you calculate the tax. How do you say? What is the tax? Yes, yes, out. Okay, yes, out. Okay, tax amount is. I'm going to say tax amount is. Okay. So let me say tax amount is plus. How do you calculate the tax? Remember, I have this TX, which is a common method. I told you between the client and the server, there is this common interface called as a tax. So I will go to this tax TX, and I'm going to call. There is only one method, compute tax, and I'm going to press enter, and the netbeans will automatically fill the amount here. So I don't have to do anything. It is done. Next question is I'm going to say yes out, and I'm going to say, do you want to continue? So if the user says yes, I want one more tax, so do you want to continue? Is it this one? I'm going to say yes or no for that person to know what is the answer to be given. Again, I will not use a print ln. Okay. So here I will not use print ln because I let it come in the same line. So do you want to enter? And I am going to read the answer. So how do you read the answer? Answer is equal to in dot. So in is my scanner object. I use that in dot or input. You can give anything. Next line. I'm going to read the next line. Okay. So as long as the user will type the value, you are going to say, when the user says, no, I don't want to continue. If the user says, yes, I can do that thing. Now, only problem with this is whenever you ask somebody to, do you want to continue? Some people write it, where is the thing gone? Some people will write it in capital Y. Some people will write it in a small case y. Some people will put a few space and then type y. So I have to first eliminate the spaces which are there in the string. How do you eliminate the spaces within that string? Is you know very well, trim. The word is trim. Trim will remove the trailing and ending spaces. So leading and trailing spaces remove. And if it is typed in capital, I'm going to convert it into the smaller case. How can I convert it into smaller case? To lower case. This is the Java methods are there. So whatever the user, even if the user is typing in it in capital Y in capital or N in capital, that will be converted into lower case. And before that, all the spaces, the trailing as well as leading and trailing spaces are removed. That is done. Now, only one problem with this story is when you say enter the total number of amount. So you will type the 15,000. Suppose say you write 15,000. And after this, what you do is you press enter. You press enter. Now, when you press enter, this 15,000 is taken and given to this amount, and the calculation will go. Okay. Now, what will happen to that enter? Remember, enter is there in the buffer. It will be there in the buffer. After this, what will happen? After this, what will happen is you are reading this text. Next thing, next line. This is the first input where 15,000 is given to the amount, and the next time this enter is taken up, and it is taken up by the answer. So answer will always get that enter sign. So what you expect the answer to be, yes or no? So this is the answer. Generally you expect it to be yes. but instead of yes, you will get the answer as enter. Enter is not equal to y, so it will not iterate again. What is the reason? Because when you type 15,000, you pressed enter. That enter is there in the buffer. So before you read the answer, you have to eliminate this enter from the buffer. You have to remove that enter from the buffer. How can I remove this from the buffer? There are a lot of ways in which you can do it. Easiest way is just read this from the buffer. Whatever is remaining in the buffer, just read it. Dummy, just read it. Just dummy, you read that thing. How can I dummy read this one? So before getting the actual answer, before reading the actual answer, I will go for a dummy reading. So what is this dummy reading? I'm going to say next line. This is dummy reading. What will happen in this case? So when you type 15,000 here for this, when you type this 15,000 or 10,000, whatever you type the 15,000 and you press this enter sign, that 15,000 is taken and given to the amount. Then when this dummy read line is there, it will read this enter sign. Will read this enter sign, and that enter is eliminated or removed from the buffer. Then the buffer is now empty. When the actual reading comes, that is when you want to get the actual answer, it will wait for you to type y or n or whatever it is. It will wait for that. Okay, so this one is, it is like a trick that you have to use in order to so-called in order to somehow some, if it's not working, you have to either twist here and there and make it work. So how do you run the program? First you run the server, very important thing, because server has to write the thing in the registry. The client will have to search for that one. So first go to the server side, save everything by clicking here. Okay, right click and run the server. So I sit with that server is running. So your server is running. So server started. If you get this word, server has started. Now come to the client and right click anywhere in the client, run this client. Okay. So if everything goes fine, if you're not done any mistake, then it will run it and it will say enter the total amount. I will zoom in for you. So you have to find somewhere, enter the total amount. So if your salary is 2 lakhs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it is 2 lakhs, the tax must be 0. Press enter and the tax amount is 0 because there is no tax up to 3 lakhs. Do you want to continue? I say yes. And if you have 7 lakhs 50,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think is it? So this is, let me make it as 7 lakhs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is it. Press enter. You get the value as 25,000. Okay, some value 25,000. Assuming my calculation is proper, I will not cross verify. And do you want to continue? You say no. So when you say no, your client is over. Client is finished. You finished your client part. What about the server? Very, 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 very important thing. Go to the output again. Remember, server is still running. Server is still running. This is your server. This is your client. Client is closed. What about the server? Server is still running. Close the server. Very important thing. Close the server. During the examination, just check here. Your previous one, somebody, there are two programs are there. So your previous, the morning batch, somebody might have already done this one and the server is still running. In that case, just stop the server. Remember, this is to stop the server. Now everything is over. Your work is completed. That's all in this class. Thank you for your interest. We will meet again in the next class.